I know that in the Middle East, we have a lot of dishes that are similar in ingredients and maybe have different names or different preparations depending on where you move throughout the region. Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe how, if you can, it's okay, but how the language, as you're moving from Hebrew to Arabic and languages in between, how does that reflect community? I'm thinking of a dish like tabbouleh or dolmas or something like that, and something that you'll see in Greece or Turkey, and you'll also see it in Egypt, you'll see it in Lebanon or etc. But the preparations are different, the words are slightly different when they're eaten, the time of day that they're eaten. What do you notice from your community about that? Or what do you notice about the way that people prepare these type of common dishes that are found throughout the region?
Well, I think it depends who prepares and what they prepare them for, right? We are in an era of exploration, of traveling through the plate, of knowing people through their foods, of knocking on people's door and become part of who they are by sitting at their tables. And we always like, oh, what was that? That was amazing. Can I get the recipe? Right. So the first time you will always do things maybe as you try them or try to mimic what you've tasted as original. But the beauty of food is then becomes the adaptation. You're like, maybe I don't like lamb, right? In Dolma, for example, it really depends where you're from. Maybe it's only rice, maybe it's rice and beef, maybe it's rice and lamb. I personally put some ground dry fruits in my lamb with my rice in the Dolma, right? Because my Russian friend, that's what she does, right? It brings that
Mm,
sweetness with the gaminess of the lamb. So you slowly see the interpretation of the same dish and
mhm.
either what your terroir or your cuisine combinations are inherently have, or through just your interpretation of the food, and then you own the recipe. And I think that's what's beautiful. So yes, it can be a dolma, but all of a sudden maybe it's not grapey. Maybe you see the dolma in a sweet star, or maybe it's a different fig leaves are big now. All kinds of things like that. That it's a little step from the tradition, but it's just branching out the tradition from where it was. And then you see all those variations of this one thing. And I think that's the beauty of food and the beauty of humans. And if we would have let only this beauty flourish, I think we would have had slightly different world, because I think it tells you something very, very fundamental, that there is room for
Mm.
everybody and everything. And it doesn't need to be less. It's just a different thing, right? It can be as tasty. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because I'm not in the industry like you, but I do feel like we have so much more exploration now through what people are doing, and I feel, you tell me if you notice this, but I feel like there's so much more acceptance of, I'm gonna cook this my way. I don't have to do it the way that it's traditionally been done, all the way generations have done it before me. And people embracing that, celebrating that. And I think, like you said, I think it's a really beautiful thing. But I'm wondering from your professional perspective, if if you've noticed that shift over time, has it been happening for a long time? Have people always had these kind of attitudes, or is it a quote unquote new thing that we're seeing?
I think saying something that is new, it's very
It's
subjective.
tricky.
What is new?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Today, right? I think with the evolution, again, because food is such a mirror to who we are and our culture, you could see the way food is being interpreted, almost like us as humans finding our voice and want to be seen like who we are. Doesn't matter if it's religion, color, or dietary restrictions. We want other people to appreciate us for who we are, and not necessarily to force feed us to something just because we were born in a certain place or at a certain time. And I think that's exactly what we see with food. What I do see with food that I wish I would have seen more, in the grand scheme, is respect to the tradition.
Okay.
There is always respect to the original, to how it was done to begin with, and then the interpretations on that same thing, which, that doesn't mean that, again, that it makes it any less. It's just different, right? But I feel each chef always starts by paying homage to the original to understand the original. And based on understanding the original, you say, let me take it, put it in, put my head around it.
Mm.
Uh, but I think I would say that pretty much, we have seen a huge shift in the past 2 decades in food, and not only the willingness of the diners to accept newness and interpretations, but also how chefs are venturing beyond what we have defined as traditional. Doesn't matter if it's traditional Chinese or traditional French, it doesn't matter. We're breaking the boundaries. And I think by breaking the boundaries, we are allowing ourselves to create newness and try different things and discover. And that's why there is always something more exciting, even though I mean, how much more can you reinvent? Well, you know, as long as we are breaking those rules and putting things together, we will always invent things. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful journey.